The Story of Olympia. It's a story about a place known for many things. It's the village once promoted as the Pearl of the Puget Sound. It's the town that oysters and water made famous. It's the capital city of Washington State. But more than anything else, Olympia is a place that people made great. So join us, won't you, in our Stories of Old Olympia. It's a tribute to our town's quiet heroes, the workers and the dreamers, the pioneers and the builders. They're all part of our story. They're all home folk. And while they don't always make headlines, they do make cities. And our city's a better place because of them.
Welcome. I'm Joe Willing, your host for the Story of Olympia. I'm out in the Capitol Forest where the Mima Mounds and the Black Hills meet. I'm standing over Mima Creek. Today, in September of 1988, this is a very quiet and idyllic spot. The sun's filtered by the early autumn leaves. What could be prettier? It was a far different place, however, back in 1908. Back then, there was a railroad that went just to the north of me here. And behind me, there was a thriving lumber mill. There was a planing mill, there was a shingle mill. Just across the road, there was a hotel, schoolhouse, and homes for about 300 families. This was Bordeaux. It was a company town, built by Tom and Joe Bordeaux, who immigrated to Thurston County from Canada. French Canadians they were, and they were here to log. And so were the others, and log they did. They logged the entire Capitol Forest of old-growth timber, trees that 10 men holding hands outstretched couldn't reach around. Millions and millions of board feet left on the railroad here for the entire nation, because we were building homes then at record rates. Now, back in 1910, a young man who was then known as Jiggers Layton came to Bordeaux. And in 1924, Armeda and her husband, Trev Tupper, came to Bordeaux, and they spent many years of their lives here. And we're going to share some of their stories on our Story of Olympia. Jiggers, we're going to start with you. You were 7 years old when you moved here.
That's correct. Yes, I was 7 years old when we moved here.
And that was in 1910.
1910.
Well, what did it look like here? What was the layout like here? Right now it's all forest, and if you look hard you can see some of the remains of Bordeaux. But
you can't see any of the remains of Bordeaux at all here, other than if you watch very closely, you will see the two old vaults. Now, after they closed the vaults, the sawmill vault, they put everything in it of all about Bordeaux and chained it, put a chain on it. Well, after a few years had gone by, somebody had sawed the chain apart and broke open the door and stole all the information that was buried stored away in that old vault. Yeah. The old vault still stands, and the Mason County Logging Company vault still stands.
But all the records of Bordeaux, the history of Bordeaux, the written history,
were all stolen out of the vault.
I see. Yeah. Now, when you were Jiggers, Roy, back in those days, when you were a kid, where'd you play?
Well, we played all over Bordeaux. We didn't have any, we lived right above the store and everything, and we played all over Bordeaux, everywhere. We were full of mischief, I admit that. One year we had a teacher, my first year in school, her name was Mrs. Springer. And she was originally one of the daughters of the Springer Mill in Olympia. And she was teaching. But she was a wonderful teacher. She was just, every kid in the school loved her. But until a few years went on by, and then we got a teacher named Mamie Crosman. And there were 2 rooms, there was 2 basements. And on the boys' basement, we could go into the furnace room and we could get up on our stand and look through the windows and see the girls jump rope. Well, one day we were looking through the windows watching them jump rope, and the teacher come down, Mamie Crosman come down, and she happened to see us in there. She picked up a stove stick and she batted us across the behinds, and we didn't like that. That night, the whole bunch of us, we were mad. We went down here below the mill in a swamp, and we knew where the snakes were.
Oh, no.
And it was full of snakes down there. So a bunch of us kids, it was dark as night, and so we got all our hands full of snakes, all we could hold. And we come back up the hill and up to where Mamie Crosman was staying with a neighbor. There she's living with some people, and her front door was open, and she was sitting at a desk correcting papers from school. Well, we sneaked up there, you know, and threw all these snakes in on top of her.
Oh, no.
Now that wasn't too charitable, Jiggers.
But anyway, we got a paddling the next day anyway. She paddled all of us, yeah.
And you deserved it, too.
Yeah, shoot.
Armeda, you know?
You know, they used to do that when you was in grade school.
Oh, yeah.
I know that one teacher, I don't know what I had done, but she had put me out in the hallway, and then she come out there, and every time she'd make a crack at me with her ruler or whatever it was, well, I'd squat down and it'd hit my coat, you know, my clothes. It wouldn't hit my legs anyway. Oh, I was ornery.
Yeah.
Ornery, were you?
You asked me where I achieved the name of Jiggers.
Uh-huh.
Well, my dad, everybody in Bordeaux loved him. And whenever he'd walk along and look up overhead and see something, some loose object or something, he'd holler to all the carpenters who were working, and he'd say, "Look out for that jigger up there." Well, they started calling him Jiggers. And of course I came along and I was Jigger number 2.
I see. You were, and your dad now, he built the
Yes,
plane,
he
built the mill.
He planned and built the whole mill. He would supervise the whole building of all the mill.
Now that must have been a considerable undertaking out here back then.
It was the mill was a little steam engine place. He changed it to electric, put in all the turbines, put in new boilers, new fuel bins, and everything else.
Now that was back in the 1910.
Well, it was later than 10 they did that. He started in 1910.
I see.
So, yeah.
And then you came here as a boy of 7 and started school, and your entire schooling was here in Bordeaux.
Here at Bordeaux, yes, through the 8th grade.
Through the 8th grade, and then you became a locomotive engineer.
And I became a locomotive fireman for the first year.
I see.
And then I was converted to an engineer.
Where was the run? Where did it go?
The run was from here over the hill behind us here. And that's where they were logging at that time. And up there then, we had, well, it was I'd say a cheese factory up in there, Swiss cheese factory. And we moved in a bunch of people in the railroad cars, Swiss people.
Uh-huh.
And they had houses, and they had one nice big house as the supervisor of the place. And that was 4 miles above Bordeaux here. And right now, it's a correctional center for youth.
So
Correctional
Cedar
center.
Creek used to be a Swiss cheese factory.
That's right. The mountain above it.
Uh-huh, I see, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were from Switzerland, the people there.
They were from Switzerland, come in. The Northern Pacific train moved them in, and they refused to get out of the cars and transfer. So we had to take them, we went down and hooked into the passenger cars and took them up to their place to where they unloaded. That was 4 miles above Bordeaux on the summit.
But when you made your run, you made it over across the hill there. Did you ever go to the east, or was it always to the west?
In 1935, they finished logging all up in here. We logged 70,000 acres. And in 1935, they logged out all that was up in on the north side. And then we moved to the prairie, down here on the prairie, and the trackmen went up to our left and clear up by Waddell Creek and on up into the mountains that way to Camp 4.
Oh, I see.
And then from there on up in, we branched out to each logging spur.
Okay.
And that's where we had trouble up there a little bit. I was an ornery rascal, as usual, you know. I felt like I owned Bordeaux, so one day we got a new cook, and I didn't like him, and none of the rest of the crew liked him, so I decided something. We had our own bunkhouses when we lived up here, and so one day I decided that I had to get rid of that cook. We didn't like him. He wasn't any good. So we went through from the office, through the cookhouse, and through the kitchen, and by where the cook had the pancake dough all fixed up and everything, and gone into the dining room where we eat. So that morning I went in to have breakfast and everything, and went by the medicine chest in the office. What did I see up there but a bottle of croton oil? So when I went by the pancake dough, why in went the croton oil. Yeah. Well, the crew was still staying together long enough. We took them up to camp, and first one was sick, and then the other was sick, and oh gosh, it was miserable. We had to take 5 of them to the hospital, and the rest of them like to died out behind the stumps.
Armeda, now you never did anything like that.
No.
Now your husband, Trev,
Yeah.
now he ran the planing mill.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No. And you had your children here?
I only had one child,
Uh-huh.
Lois, my daughter.
Uh-huh. And how old was she when you came here?
Well, she was 6 years old, 7 years old, I'll say.
And that was in 1924.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did her schooling here too.
She went through the grade school, and she went to Rochester to high school.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
Have any
did she have to go?
farther.
Did she have to go to Rochester and stay there to go to high school, or
Oh
did she
no,
commute?
there was a bus to come to Bordeaux and pick all the kids
I
up
see.
and take them
Okay.
over to
That's not
Rochester.
that's a fair trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like living here for a woman?
It was fine. We
Was it?
made the women folks. We used to get together and piece quilts,
Oh yeah.
you know, and,
Yeah.
and sew them, you know,
You
like
betcha,
that.
yeah.
The one thing, and then, I don't know. I got a Jenny Bauer. She was one of that took care of the kids
Right.
that get stuck with their schoolwork, you know.
Tutor.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd all go to her for help, even my daughter.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And she'd take them all in there and help them, you know, and all that.
She was quite a good girl.
Oh,
wasn't she?
yes, she sure was.
Yeah, I read a little
But-
about Jenny Bauer.
Mhm,
I know her, one of her boys, Bob
yeah,
Bauer.
Bob Bauer lives in Olympia, where we live.
Uh-huh. Now Bob used to
And-
live here as well.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
yes, he went to school with my daughter.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't know how much more we went
But there wasn't a church here.
No, no.
So how did you have services? Did
Well,
you-
they had it, Jenny Bauer used to have, you know, like that.
Uh-huh. And was it
and,
easy to bring kids up here? Was there a
oh,
doctor in
yes.
town?
No,
No doc.
no, I
So-
don't want to
No,
talk.
no doctors. When they had a dance or something, there was a dance hall up over our store,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and we could go upstairs in the dance hall. That's where I finally met my wife.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, they framed me up. Yeah, I had an automobile, and about that time, and there was nobody else had cars. Well, they framed me, and I got me up to that dance hall, and finally got to dance with her. Well, it continued on then. There was nobody else here, so she stayed with me. And yeah, in 1926 we were married. Yeah.
So a Bordeaux romance.
It was a Bordeaux romance,
All
and
the
right,
way.
yes, it was upstairs over the store in the dance hall.
I'll be darned. Now, Jiggers, tell us a little more about Bordeaux. The company store was over here. What were the big buildings here?
The company store was the largest building, and the hotel was the largest building here, and the store was just below the hotel.
Yeah, but on top of the hotel, they had a dance floor.
So that was on top of the store.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and I just mentioned that a
They
while
had
ago.
dances.
Yeah, and but during the Depression times here at Bordeaux, they would let men work for instance, they'd let load lumber in the boxcars 3 days, and that would be all you'd have. Then they would transfer it to someone else, and they'd get 3 days in, and that was all they would get in. They moved it around to everybody in town.
Well, that was a good way to
It
at least.
was, and nobody had to go on welfare or anything.
So you guys took care of your own essentially.
Yes, but I had to run the locomotive, and I ran it 3 days a week because we had to go down every week because we had to move out the boxcars and take the lumber down to the Northern Pacific Railroad. So I got a chance to work 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't charge us anything for our room, our house, although our house only cost us $13 a month, and that was for our water and everything.
13 a month.
That's right. It was $13 a month is what we paid, and everybody was very happy about it.
Hmm.
The wife and I, during those times when it was during the Depression times here, we would go down to the ocean. Then the Indian reservation down the Cowlitz, or no, what's the river down there?
The
Cowlitz.
Chehalis?
No,
Cowlitz.
yeah, where the Indian reservation was, and we'd pay 50 cents a fish. We'd take tubs and put in the back of our car, and we'd go down there, and we'd fill those tubs clear full of fish for 50 cents a fish.
Huh.
Some of them were that big, 40 pounds
Were they salmon?
salmon. And we would bring them back and sold them to the people for $1. That was made our expenses, see. And we kept that up for a whole long time.
Well, that's pretty good. That'd be pretty good, you
Yeah.
know, back
Because-
then.
And we could have gasoline at the stores. The other people didn't get gas, though.
Oh.
No.
Armeda, tell me a little about your house. Was it a nice house when you lived here?
Yes, it wasn't bad at all.
How many
We had a
bedrooms?
bathroom,
Mhm.
running water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Electricity?
No,
No electricity?
we had lamps.
Okay, no electricity. And the washroom, was that outside?
Yes,
Yeah, those old outhouses, eh? And how many bedrooms was it?
2.
And how about the kitchen?
The kitchen was pretty good size.
Was it?
Mhm.
Did you take meals in
And
the
it
kitchen
had
there?
a bathroom too, bathtub and
Oh, I see.
toilet.
Oh,
Mhm.
great, eh?
Yeah.
Was it a good kitchen to work in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you entertain in it? Have your friends over there and have coffee?
I'm sure I had
Yeah.
a lot of people come.
You betcha, huh?
I used to fix their hair.
Oh, is that right?
Really,
Uh-huh.
I didn't take that lessons in doing that, but even all of the ladies up that lived in the higher up men, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
I see. Yeah,
They
the
used to
hierarchy.
come to my house and let me fix their hair.
Is that right? Huh?
Hmm.
Huh. And so you had a little business going with
Oh,
hairdresser.
yeah,
Well, good for
probably
you.
got $1.
Huh? Yeah? Good.
Didn't get very much.
Good.
Did.
And I
But I
bet
didn't mind it.
Trev enjoyed his home here.
Oh, yes.
Was-
We went, he was, as I said,
yeah.
active all the time
And
in
when did-
sports
in
and
sports?
stuff.
Oh.
Yes. Mhm.
Did they have basketball league here? Or?
They had, not in Bordeaux, they didn't. but he would go with the kids from Little Rock, you know, and play with them,
Oh.
you know, and play different things.
Sure, sure. It
Yes,
was,
well,
how long
yeah.
were you here? When did you leave? You came here in
Well,
1926.
Was it 26?
Four,
You sure
1924.
24?
Okay, and then
When they liquidated,
in 41.
41.
So you were here from 24 to 41.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fair stretch of time.
Yes.
Was it a good time in your life?
Yes, it was.
And where did you go from here?
We went, let's see, I think I'm trying to think. I'm almost forgotten. But we went to Montana.
Oh, I see.
Too. Yes, Bordeaux, not Bordeaux, in Montana.
Up in Montana, and you
Yes.
finally ended up back in Olympia.
Bonner.
Oh, Bonner, Montana.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we was there.
Was it a good store here?
Yeah,
The
well,
store
he
here in
worked in the
Bordeaux?
mill there.
Right.
you
Now you
know.
did a lot of shopping here in the store.
Yes.
And they had the food there, but did they have dry goods too? And
Yes.
they did. They had
a few,
your fabrics and cloths.
Just, yeah, not much of anything.
When you went shopping, where did you go?
Went into Missoula.
No, here, when you were in Bordeaux.
Oh, and went into Olympia.
Did you? And what was Olympia like back then?
Well, it's changed a lot now.
Oh, it has?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't the same. Even the post office has moved.
Yeah.
You know.
It just keeps getting bigger, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Spreads out bigger.
Now, Jiggers,
Yeah.
when you were back here and went into Olympia, what was it like? What was Olympia like back then?
Olympia? Well, Olympia was, we built our house 1415 West 5th Street. That was just above the old hospital up on the west side. And that was the city limits.
Oh yeah, but you left here in 41, or
41,
when it closed down.
I was the last.
I
we
see.
were
But
the
when you
last-
were a boy living here, and when you went to Olympia, when you were a boy,
No, I didn't live here when I was a boy. I lived over at Algona.
you were here in 1910.
Not in Olympia, Bordeaux. Yeah.
That's
here.
right, here in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, here. I forgot we was out here. Yeah. Heaven's fire, this don't look like Bordeaux.
No.
No. Yeah.
It is. It's what's left of it.
I know. I realize that.
Now, when you were a little kid, was Olympia the big city that you went to?
Oh yes, that's the town we went to. It was quite big. I have pictures of Olympia back when the 4th Street was a gravel road.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, and there was hardly anything there.
But a lot of the loggers, I imagine, used to go to Olympia.
Oh yeah, that's where we went all together. Yes, yes. And we'd have to take them down on the speeder down to the Northern Pacific track, and then they get on the train and go to town, and then come back. They'd go in on town, and then they'd come back on Sunday night.
Oh, I see. So they made a weekend of it.
Yes, and then we'd have to take them
I bet
back.
some of those boys got a little wild.
They got pretty drunk. I'm telling you, they were pretty bad. The wife didn't like it because she was a school teacher then. She's teaching here, and she'd get on the speeder and she'd have to step over those guys laying on the floor. She didn't like that.
They drink a little too much.
They got a little too much. Yeah, they got off the train and got a little too much. Yeah. But it was interesting.
Back in those days, there was a lot of problems or a lot of activity with the unions. Did the Wobblies and all that did any of that affect Bordeaux?
Not very much. No. The IWW.
Right.
Yeah.
That was around here in those
Oh
days.
yes, we had it. It was here. We knew about it.
Did they ever try to organize Bordeaux?
They did in the later years, but they didn't get anywhere.
Why is that?
Well, we was just didn't go with it. That's all.
You were just happy taking care of yourselves here.
We didn't. we didn't have to belong to union, and we were all treated very well and everything, and no trouble at all. So we didn't have to join the union.
I see. So there wasn't any of the union trouble here then?
No, we had no trouble with the union. No, not at all. Our store was a beautiful big store. It had its own butcher shop, and it had their own butcher. And if we wanted something special, we'd go back in the butcher shop, and he'd cut us off something for it. And they were very nice that way.
You're talking about?
No, that was here in Bordeaux.
Bordeaux.
Yeah, here at Bordeaux. Yeah, and One of the Bordeaux girls was postmistress. We had a post office in the store.
Yes.
And one of the girls was, she was a mistress in the post office for quite a long time and worked together in there and all.
Who were some of the characters? Thinking back on some of the characters of Bordeaux, who were some that come to mind?
Oh heavens, I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you a little interesting story that I had though one time when I hauled the crew out up to camp. And the camp was up on Waddell Creek. So I got them up there in the morning, and they all got out of the caboose and the loggers and all, and they started getting off. And there was a new man, and he was going to fire with wood, you know, a donkey boiler, loading donkey. And as he got off, why, he got on the look, and he looked down the side of the sled that the donkey was on, you know, and here went a beautiful animal underneath the donkey sled runner. Well, nobody said anything to him, and he ran down there, and he jumped down his belly, and he crawled in the hole where the thing went. Well, it was a big skunk. And it hit him right in the face.
Oh, no.
And I had to take him to the hospital.
Oh, no. And where was the hospital?
In Olympia.
And all the way into
Yes.
Olympia.
Oh, he tried to kill that poor fellow.
Oh, how'd he come out, right?
Well, yeah, I guess he come out. He didn't come back to Bordeaux.
Well,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he didn't come back to Bordeaux. So,
Now, what did the guys do for entertainment around here when they stayed around here?
well, the entertainment was not too good. As we say, we'd all get together, and we'd play cards and entertain one another like that in our homes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go upstairs over the store.
Yes,
And play cards.
We'd have a dance up there and
Yeah.
upstairs over the floor.
mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting, and we kept busy.
And the
And
guys
of course,
that
you know, those days, there wasn't so many people around,
No.
and you didn't require so much entertainment as you do today.
Uh-huh.
No.
We always used to serve food, though,
Oh,
too.
yes, yeah.
And all of us wives had to bring
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
each time.
Oh, I
Every
see.
Saturday
Kind of like a
night.
potluck. Every
Yes,
Saturday night, you have your,
everybody brought
and you'd
something.
have your quilting parties, and you'd have
Oh,
your
yes.
potluck dinners.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I bet it was fun, huh?
Yes, it
It was
was.
really entertaining.
And it was probably a good place to bring children up.
Yes, it was. The little kids.
Yeah, I'll bet they had a good time
Yeah,
here.
my 2 children was born here in Bordeaux.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Now, did they have a midwife when they were born here,
No, they had to take them to Olympia
or? Oh, you did go into
for
Olympia
birth.
then.
Yeah. Had to take them into Olympia for birth. Yeah. One part of Bordeaux was that you felt like you were part of the company.
Uh-huh.
You know, you felt like it was your home and it was part of the company.
I see.
And that you don't find today. No. Yeah. We had one time, I'll cite a little something that happened at the store. Some people up on the hill had a bear. So we decided that he didn't want that bear up there anymore. He's getting a little older, so we decided to take the bear down and put it under the back porch of the store where we loaded groceries in there, you know. Well, we took him down there, and there was a knothole. We feed him through the knothole in the back porch of the store, that bear. Fella came in on the bus, on the train one day, and he got off of the bus and off of the coach, and he stepped over there, and his toe was right beside the knothole, you know.
Oh, no.
Well, he looked down, and here the old bear's claw was right over his toes and had him pinned there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he liked to. He didn't know what that was all about. Well, at the same time it happened, you know, there was some people come in who used to drive their horse and wagon in and bring groceries and all vegetables and things like that. They tied the wagon up outside of the back porch of the store, and the old horses got a whiff of that bear. And away they went, and they made a big circle around, and they tore the steps all off of the superintendent's porch, on his front porch. Yeah. And they kept right on going. I don't remember whether they ever forgot the horse and wagon back or not.
There were some real rascals here, eh, Armeda?
Yeah, I'll say. I'll say.
I bet you had a lot of good friends here.
Oh, I did.
Mm.
Yes, we had a good time.
Do you ever see any of them still?
Oh, a lot of them. Well, so many of them have passed away, though. You know, my husband included, and so it's
Time
pretty
just
hard.
keeps moving, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the old town of Bordeaux has passed away as well, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
well, some of the kids now in Tacoma. This is not Olympia, but now
Yeah.
Bill McPhee. Do you remember him?
Yes.
Yeah.
very
Well,
much,
you
yeah.
know, they lived right below us
Yeah.
in that other
Yeah.
row of houses, and
I know those.
Billy, the oldest boy, he's a doctor now, you know, and Mark, or they call him Mark, but Douglas is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He's a priest.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, when this is changing the subject entirely about Bordeaux and
Mhm.
everything, but when my husband passed away in '74, why, I started Billy, the one, not Billy, I mean Douglas, Mark, I'll get it right.
Okay.
He called me, he says, Armeda, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I said, I started crying. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. And so when he passed, he took care of the funeral, but it was a natural one, you know. It wasn't a Catholic.
Oh, I see.
But he went all through it. Everybody said that was the most beautiful sermon.
Well, isn't that nice?
He
huh?
says, Trev and Armeda, he called us by our first name. He said, I was only a little boy, just about so high, you know. And he went on and on. I don't remember half what he said because it was, you know,
Isn't that nice, though,
of too
huh?
much.
It was
But I
nice.
remember
Someone
that.
from Bordeaux. Was,
Yes,
Isn't that great, huh?
that was. Mm-hmm.
Now, Jiggers, when the town closed up and packed it off,
I was one of the last people to leave the town. I learned the locomotive, the last locomotive down to the Northern Pacific Railroad track, and killed the engine, killed it, and everything. And the Northern Pacific come in and picked it up. And that engine today is sitting in the place down at Chehalis.
Really?
That park in Chehalis, that locomotive,
that's the one.
that was the one I had.
I'll be darned.
And they sold it to the Chehalis, out that locomotive place down there.
Was it sad to close it up?
Well, no, we weren't too sad. We knew that it was going to close before, and we went to Olympia. And speaking of building, we built a house. We had a house contracted and housed and had it built, 1415 West 5th, right up above the whole hospital. And this you won't believe, but it cost us $3,500 for the complete whole house.
Back in '41. Huh?
Yes.
Back in 41, yeah.
We give them $3,500 and they built us a nice, beautiful home.
Just before the war.
Yeah.
Just before the war. Now, when you left,
We left, we went to Tacoma, and we bought a share into the Puget Sound Plywood Incorporated, right back into working in the mill, you know, like a planing mill, because the plywood goes through the machines, you know. But he was a filer then. Worked in where they kept the saw sharp and everything, and did all that.
Was it sad to leave Bordeaux?
Oh yes, you know,
all your friends?
and all your friends. We all separated.
that must have
Everybody
been-
went different. Some went to Shelton, and some went to Olympia. Of course, that wasn't far away. We used to go to Olympia all the time, you know.
Did you like Olympia back then?
Oh yes.
When you went to Olympia, what did you do there?
Well, we lived out on the lake. He was retired then.
Oh, I see. No, but when you were living here and visited Olympia, did you do your shopping in Olympia?
Yes. Hmm.
No? Did you go to the Mottman store?
Oh, yes. And I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
You remember that old Mottman store?
Oh, very much. And pennies and all of them, all was in there, yeah.
And you go to the movies back in Olympia then too?
Oh,
Too much.
we didn't have any movies. Once in a while, somebody'd move out and come in and they'd show. Not very often. It was not very often at all.
Well, Jiggers, it was a real pleasure having you with us.
Well, it was a pleasure being here, sitting on this old bridge.
Back in old Bordeaux. Armeda,
Yes.
it was a real pleasure having you here, and
Thank you.
And
Thank
for-
you.
and-
I enjoyed it.
thank you for sharing some of your
Yes.
memories of Bordeaux. It's a nice day to be
Yes.
out here, eh?
You bet it is. Yeah.
And thank you for being with us in our story of Olympia. I'm Joe Willing. Goodbye.